outside the church, and just along here, up the road there, is the headlands. I'm about to take you on a guided tour of where I once lived for 14 years, being tortured from the age of 30 up until, not 14 years, more like 12 to 13 years. From the age of 30 to the age of 42. So here we have the headlands where Dr. Jonathan Hart's surgery happens to be, the doctors, who happen to be in the process of keeping me disabled and tortured. So I moved here from London on my 30th birthday, a match fit athlete, healthy, hard-working, 2 functional legs. And I was set up in a block of flats by a cluster group of people doing some really deviant things. And I'm about to explain that in a moment. So that's the headlands, which we'll be taking a walk up to in a moment. And this across the road here is where I was housed. That's Clarendon House, which was Clarendon House NHS Foundation Trust. And on the corner you have Northampton House. So that's the headlands where the GP's practice, Dr. John James Hart, happens to be located, who set me up at the hospital to be surgically violated when I first arrived. And across the road here we have Stagecoach, which is of significant importance. There's Stagecoach. In the background you can see the General Hospital, where they surgically violated me in a multitude of ways when I first arrived. So that in the background on the skyline is the hospital. Now here we're approaching Lotus Court, where beneath me was Gary Dixon Palmer, who was housed at 10 Lotus Court, mastheading me, who modelled himself on a clinical neurologist called Gary E. Schwartz. The block of flats here at Lotus Court, I occupied the top floor flat, and beneath me a group of people that continuously tortured the daylights out of me. There were numerous flats here. You have number 12 Lotus Court, where I was housed, upstairs. The flat beneath it is 10 Lotus Court, where Gary Dixon, Gary Palmer was housed. And on the back of the block of flats, Cassandra Tebbett, Astra Tebbett, who lives at number 18 Lotus Court. Now I'll quickly show you the Clarendon House NHS Foundation Trust, which has now closed down. But this was active when I first arrived here on my 30th birthday. They were open all the way up until about 2013, 2014. They've now turned it into a block of luxury flats. You can see Kettering Lodge Bowling Club. This is what was formerly Clarendon House NHS Mental Health. Now, they worked with a bunch of clinical neurologists, such as Dr. Richard Appleton, who works in conjunction with Dr. Jonathan Hart. So that's what was formerly the NHS Mental Health team, along with a group of neurologists. Now, as we approach here, I need to be very cautious because I still have problems with neighbours that live there. I shouldn't actually really necessarily be here recording. Okay, they've blocked all this part off. This was the back way into the car park for the bowling green and for the car park to Lotus Court. Okay, so Lotus Court, where a cluster group was housed. So Clarendon House NHS Foundation Trust with Dr. Richard Appleton, J. Charandic, along with Dr. Jonathan Hart on the headlands, who's had my leg surgically violated. Members of the parish church and a parish diocese that happen to be involved in occultist forms of Freemasonry, and a group of people that lived at Lotus Court whom took it in turns to systematically torture me. Now, at Lotus Court, there's a bowling green located out the back of the block of flats, and on that bowling green was the person that would abuse me as a child, John Bacon, playing bowls. Havel Tebbert, he uses the name Havel Tebbert, John Bacon. The corner flat's occupied by Cassandra Tebbert. Her brother or cousin, I think he may be the grandson of the person who abused me as a kid, his name's John Morrison, or uses the name John Morrison, caused me heaps of grief when I first arrived, but nothing like what Dr. John James Hart of 20 The Headlands caused me with the bogus arthrogram procedure, having my leg surgically violated and pinned. I'm going to be very cautious whilst walking down the back here now. That was the driving standards test centre. That was the DTC driving test centre, that building there, but they turned it into a funeral parlour about 2014. So I literally, in that car park, watched hundreds and hundreds of people pass their driving tests each summer whilst I was in that block of flats there, crippled, being tortured. I need to keep quite a low profile whilst coming down this slope because I've got real serious problems with two of the neighbours there. I really want to get a recording of the bowling green to show the bowling green by Lotus Court, the block of flats, because the person that abused me as a child, John Bacon, would take it upon himself with large cluster groups of their lodge members to taunt me each summer whilst I was being tortured in the block of flats with an RF field generator that they had access to, my leg surgically pinned. Quite bad, really bad to be honest. That's Lotus Court. That's where I was housed upstairs. The flat's not empty. Right, this is where John Robertson would rev his motorbike up. On the bowling green is the gaffer.